All right, how y'all doing?
We're good. We're good.
Good.
What did you learn about Ryan and his pursuit of Khalil Mack that might be instructive as you guys hunt around for a quarterback?
I think the first thing with Ryan that anybody realizes or sees is that he wants to do what's best for the organization. And so when you run into different scenarios and situations, you want to be able to hit it from every angle and discuss different things with each other. And right away from the front end with me, that's kind of how things went, which I appreciated. Just being able to bounce ideas off of each other. We both, just have so much respect for how we've gotten to where we've gotten to from that point then until where we're at now. And I just think that he's a extremely detailed person. We always joke he writes everything down and types it all up, and he makes up for the stuff that I don't type and write everything down. So we just bounce everything off of each other and we work well together.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Matt, when you were looking for a defensive coordinator, I'm curious, did you talk to Wade Phillips? And also, what was your thinking in hiring a first-time coordinator in Sean Desai? And are you kind of thinking that maybe even a first-time guy might give you something that a veteran you couldn't, as far as getting the kind of punch back in his defense?
So a couple things. First of all, Mark, I hope you're doing well. Second, with the defensive coordinator hire, with this being the second time for me to learn through the process of the experience of how to go about it. Number one, on the front end, I'm not going to, because there could be a lot of different names that come up, and I'm not going to, with all due respect to the people involved, I ended up interviewing nine defensive coordinators. So I'll give you the number. And that was different than the first time. And there was a lot of great ones. They all did a really good job, and it made it hard. But in the end, I just was really excited for the direction that Sean saw this team moving forward. The thing that I really liked about Sean is his conviction and confidence that he has, and the way that he's gotten to this point right now. He's really, really smart, but he's really, really football smart too. He has an unbelievable connection with these players. And what I find fascinating is when you go through the process, every person that we talk to and that I talk to, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. And one of the biggest obstacles and hurdles that Sean has always had to go through is coming through, the ranks that he's been in is the fact that he did not play college football, and he did not play in the NFL. He did not play in the Arena League. And so, but that said, to see the way that the guys respect him and the way that he works and how he got to this point, it was really neat. And then everything else that goes into it, so many strengths. And I'm just really excited and looking forward to seeing him put his spin onto this defense. And he's been waiting for this for a long time. And now the opportunity's here. And I'm really, really excited for him and our team.
Thank you.
Dan Wiederer.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Dan, how are you?
Good. This is the first time as a head coach where you go into an offseason with everything on the table at the quarterback position, to use Ryan's words. What excites you about the possibility of exploring a lot of different avenues to find a quarterback, and what are you after as you guys try to get to the finish line of this?
Yeah, so what I'd say, Dan, is for me, growing as a head coach and learning the different styles of quarterback play with guys like Mitchell and with Nick and Tyler and the guys that have been here, to anybody else that could come through this building, is they all have their strengths and their weaknesses too. And so the first year, as you all know, in 2018, coming in here with the style of offense that we had, it's funny, we're in scheme eval right now. Every morning we get together as a staff, we do our scheme eval, and we now have a library of being able to see where were we can compare 2018, 2019, 2020. And as we all know, there's some areas in 2018 that we did better than 2019 and 2020, but there's other areas too where we've improved. And now you start with the quarterback position, and for us, There's a lot of different ways that we could go right now, right? Whether it's with Mitchell, whether it's with Nick, whether it's if it's with somebody outside. And there's a lot of different ways that it could go. And I've always been a quarterback. I've always played the position my entire life. I have fun evaluating the position and seeing what other players do well and don't do well, and then how it fits into where we're at. Right now, we're literally in the thick of everything, and just so many what if this, what if that. And it's our job to work together to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's together. Everybody, not just Ryan and myself, but the coaches, the personnel, and talking through different scenarios. There's so many things involved, some things that are out there and some things that aren't out. And so I just go back to your original question. For me, I love the process. I really enjoy it. I feel like over time, for myself, selfishly, there's confirmation in that. And so that part's what excites me.
Adam Johns.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good, Adam.
I was wondering if you could maybe just lay out the roles, your expectations for Tom Herman, the recent hiring, and for Mike Pettine, also on defense. These are, I guess, newer positions with different titles.
Yeah, so I'll start off with Mike Pettine. As you all know, I've always had a lot of respect for the way that he does things, for him as a defensive coordinator. And, anytime that you can strengthen your staff in ways of whether it's helping out in meetings and in personnel, in different ideas, the beauty is when you go through times like this, especially like a guy like Coach Pettine, who's been a head coach in this league, right? He's been a defensive coordinator and had a lot of success coming in with the first year coordinator and Sean Desai. What I thought was beautiful about our conversations, the three of us, was that there's just zero egos involved the whole way through. And so Coach Pettine is really here for a sounding board for Sean, and for him to be able to maybe ask questions when he has an idea or a thought or confirmation. Also, at the same time, being able to work ahead of time and help out, whether it's with the offense or the defense. But when you have smart people in your building that you feel like can help out, and you don't have people that are in positions where they have an ego or they're a threat or it's just not good. It's unhealthy. We don't want that. And that's that's what I'm so looking forward to seeing, how that thing blends together. And then the same thing with Tom Herman. Here's a guy that has had a lot of success in his career, worked his way up in the college ranks, the whole way up to a very successful head coach, and has done it at the highest level. And a guy that we've discussed together, the conversations we've had with myself, with Bill Lazor, with Coach Flip, of just where is he at and what is his why coming into this league. He's never been a part of this. And I think just as much as he can help us out in similar things on offense, like Coach Pettine will for the defense, they can cross over, right? And Tom Herman can be a help to Sean Desai, and Pettine can be a help to us. So there's that. But in the same time, Coach Herman gets to see what the NFL is all about, and how do we game plan? How do we look at different things? He brings the element of the college game to whether it's in evaluating or whether it's schematically. So again, the biggest part of all that, for the long-winded answer, is that we have guys that have no ego, that all they want to do is ultimately help, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Chris Emma.
Matt, you said in an interview last month that you felt this team was close, that the roster was close, and you expressed your hope that the quarterback position can get you over the hump. What's your confidence in your ability to make that move this offseason, and what's your expectation of what's to come?
Sure. Yeah, Chris. So you look at kind of where we've been at the last 3 years, and you get to a point where we can sit here and we can talk about the playoffs 2 or 3 years. We can say we can, and I know, that gets brought up. You can talk about the offense has struggled. You can talk about the quarterback position, but really what it comes down to is every year is so different. And for me as the head coach, my biggest challenge going into this year is trying to learn from the previous 3 years of where we're at and how do we get better. And there's a lot of different things that I'm growing. I've said that each year, but I really am. I feel like for me, if I can take my weaknesses that I've had in whatever it is, and use other coaches' strengths to help me out, I'll do that. And so it's a new year. Last year is gone. Just like Sean said, right? You guys are asking Sean, what's your defense going to look like? It's going to look like the 2021 Sean Desai defense. I love that. I think that's real. So we have an opportunity, and we know that we have different areas to fix and different areas to get better. And it's our job now as coaches to also make sure that we're coaching at the highest level, right? We're putting these guys in the best position possible. And when you go through a 4-game losing streak like we did in 19, when you go through a 6-game losing streak like we did last year, let's eliminate those. Let's have more of the 5-1 starts and finish strong. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's win in the playoffs. And that's our challenge to our coaching staff and our players heading into this year.
Hub Arkush.
Hey, Matt, good to see you. I hope everything's
You
well.
too, Hub. You
Um,
too.
Thank you. I understand you can't give me names of quarterbacks, and I get why. I know you're not trying to be difficult. I get the competitive advantage part, but if you could have your pick of the quarterback to run the scheme that you hope to run when you came to Chicago, what would be the 3 most important traits you'd be looking for? And relative to that, not having a combine or in-person visits, how much is that going to handicap you in discovering those traits?
Sure. So here's what I would say. And this is where, when I first got hired, Hub, you come into this thing and, obviously Mitchell being our young quarterback that's coming in, learning the system, being able to give you the dual threat that can run, but can also has the arm and the ability to make every throw in the playbook, which he does. And so you start off there and you say that, but then as you go through it, right, and you start to see where your team is at with your players and their strengths that they have and how it fits. Now you start kind of tweaking your offense a little bit to turn it into the Chicago Bears offense, right? And not necessarily the Kansas City offense. There's stuff that we like from that offense that we brought here. There's stuff we've gotten away from. There's stuff we've added as far as this year in 2020. But that would be one part is do you have versatility and being able to you don't have to be running all over the field, but have some movement. Great. If you don't, we'll work around that. The other part I'd say is decision making. Every quarterback coach in the world will tell you that. It's when you make those decisions. I think situational football, y'all have heard me say it over and over, is important with decision making. And then having the leadership skills. And when I say that, every quarterback leads in different ways. I was around a guy with Alex Smith who was that happy medium where he wasn't a yeller and screamer at the guys, but he wasn't quiet. He was right down the middle. And every guy has kind of their own ways that they do it, but they all lead in a certain way and they multiply the players around them. And so I'd say leadership, decision-making, and if you have some versatility as a quarterback with your legs, great. If you don't, no problem. We can work around it.
And are you guys going to be challenged by not being able to do in-person visits and not having the combine?
Without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, that's a big time challenge in so many ways. It's definitely unprecedented. It's real. So now that just puts more of the onus on our personnel. It puts more of the onus on our coaches and different phone calls that we got to make just to make sure, hey, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? And then, just making sure that what you see on tape is real. And then you got some guys that don't have a lot of tape because of what went down. So without a doubt, this is unprecedented.
Brad Biggs.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Brad.
You said there's a lot of ways it could go when referring to the quarterback situation. So what I'm curious is how many ways are there that you'll be confident with? Like, how many options are there that you can point at right now today and say, you know what, I'm good with that?
So what I would say to you, Brad, is that there's several, and we can't get into that right now, but there's a lot of different what ifs, and there's a lot of different, okay, here we are, this is where we're at. And if it's X, Y, quarterback X, Y, or Z, including the guys that we discussed with Mitchell and Nick, what do we do to get this thing better? Because in the end, we got to score more points and we got to score more touchdowns, regardless of anything. And And it's not just one position. It's not. It's everywhere. And we feel like with some of the younger guys that we drafted this past year and previous years, guys are really jumping into their specific roles, and they can help multiply that quarterback position. They can help out. And so without getting into the directions of every one of them, I think the biggest thing is, do we have a plan? Will we have a plan? Could things change? Absolutely. Without a doubt, things could change. And then we got to make sure from the coaching standpoint, right? Myself, Bill Lazor, Flip, we got to make sure offensively that we're always communicating with Ryan so that he understands where we're at and how it's a fit or not a fit.
Jason Leisure.
Hey, Matt, when you're
Jason.
evaluating quarterbacks who played for you before, like Foles or Alex Smith, is there a challenge in comparing what they did for you versus where they're at currently in their career?
Probably a little bit, just because, they've obviously Alex had his big injury. And so, but for him to be able to come back and do what he did is just fascinating. And then with Nick, same thing, right? This was our first year going into this season, calling plays and being with Nick and understanding what his strengths and weaknesses are. And, you have to be able to say, as a coach, you have to be able to say, okay, what do they do well? And then how do we help them? And I think you guys saw there with Mitchell towards the end of the season, we really were creating that identity with the offense and the direction. Now, it doesn't mean that we weren't doing things that we didn't do in 2018 or 19, but specifically with those other guys, we're learning as a staff. Let's try to take what we do well as an offense and help it fit with what these quarterback strengths are. And last year you saw a little bit of, you got a guy like Mitchell who has the movement with his legs. He can threaten opposing defenses on third down with the scramble, with the way he scrambles. And then you got a guy like Nick who's coming into a situation, and it's a little different philosophy offensively with some of the things that we do there. That said, too, we had different personnel throughout the year that went on. And so just trying to work through all of that. And so you have to be able to be adaptive to every one of your quarterbacks that you work with. And that's what we need to do.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Matt, when you look
Kevin.
at the Allen Robinson situation, I think this might be kind of a first for you here, where you have a guy of that profile who's going to be a free agent. How do you view it from your spot as a head coach? Because obviously Ryan and Joey take care of the business side of it, and what he brings to your offense. So what role do you play, and how do you kind of what's your perspective on that?
So I would say, Kevin, the biggest thing is anytime you get into these type of situations with these players across the league, it's never easy. It's never fun, but it's real. And that process is what you try to do ultimately, right? Is you try to get to that win-win in a perfect scenario. A-Rob knows how much we love him. A-Rob knows, how much that me as a head coach and Ryan as a general manager, the importance that he brings to this city, to the organization, to his teammates, to all of us. And then now you run into, the things that he has done with us and the things that we have done for him, being able to help him be productive. Now you get to this point, and this is where Ryan and Joey will do their thing, and A-Rob and his agent work together, and you just try to figure out, okay, where is it a win-win? And from my perspective, I let them do that part. And again, I've had a million conversations with A-Rob in 3 years, and he's well aware of what he means to all of us. And this is just the business side, and we're not the only team in the NFL that's dealing with this right now.
Colleen Kane.
Hey, Matt, since you've had a little more time to evaluate Nick's play since the end of the season, what was your assessment of him, and how does that evaluation play into his status moving forward for 2021?
Sure. So I would say, Colleen, we now, like, being in the middle of it, you get to see of our scheme evaluations every morning. You get to kind of see some of the whys, and we had a pretty good idea going into a lot of it where we were, and really, in all fairness to Nick, when we went through some of the stretch that we went through, as an offense. There was a lot of different areas that we could have been a lot better at. And then you have some of the health issues, you have injuries, you have people playing in different spots. And there's some things that are just a little bit different than probably we thought it would be at. And Nick would be the first to tell you that we could coach better, we could play better, everybody could have stepped up a little bit more when we went through that stretch. But he stepped up in a lot of different ways and just showed kind of who he was. And we understand that now. Do we want more from him? Yes. Can we get more from him? Yes. Can that happen with us as well? For sure. We can help out from the coaching side too. So, talking through things and the relationship side of it is real. And I just think, again, he's for him and understanding his role with us. He's under contract. And I think one of the best things that we do is we talk through the whys all the time. And every year is different. And that's why 2021 is going to be different for all of us.
Mark Grody.
Hi, man. It's obviously a very unique situation where two franchise quarterbacks might be available in Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. How surprised are you about that news, which has ruled the NFL this offseason? And do you allow yourself to think about the possibility of them if you're thinking about all of the possibilities with this team?
Yeah, obviously I can't get into any of that because those guys are, all these players are under contracts. And so it's just, to me, I have no idea. We have to, from our end, we have to look at it like the guys that we know their contracts are up, and that's what we do. And so we just stick to that plan, and that's not something that I can even get into.
We have time for two more. Joe Lewis.
Yeah, hey, Matt. Earlier, Ryan spoke about the collaboration and the relationship you have with one another. With several of your players being very vocal about these high-level players being available, how much do you factor that into deciding on a quarterback, whether it be free agency or the potential in the draft?
What did you say about collaboration?
Go ahead, Joe.
Joe, one more time. Sorry.
Yeah. Ryan was speaking about how you all are focused on improving your relationships and how you all have learned from one another. When you're dealing with players who are being very vocal about these high-level players, how do you use their needs or their wants or their expressions of who potentially could join the team, and how you factor that in to Ryan deciding?
Yeah. No, again, we'll always talk about everything. And I think that the one thing that we do is we over communicate, with the details on things. And so we can play through every hypothetical situation out there and we will. But it's definitely something and a process for us that I feel like is now, with this heading into our fourth year together, we really know who each other is and what we do well and don't do well. And then we just bounce it off and trust. There's that trust factor too, with no ego. So that's real. But the biggest thing is just working together.
Last one for Coach Pat Finley.
I have two, but the first one's really fast, I promise.
You're good. You're fine.
How much time is Tom Herman going to spend in the building? Is is he going to move to Chicago or just kind of pop in and out?
Yeah, nope. He'll be Pat. He'll be in the building. He'll be in the building with us. Yep.
Okay. And the second one is this. This is the third straight offseason that you have had a pretty major overhaul on one side of the ball with your position coaches and coordinators. I know we've talked about how coaches cycle in and out, more than ever probably, but is there any reason for concern on your part that there are a lot of new voices coming in?
No, there's not. The one with Vic is, uncontrollable. He goes ahead and, gets that head job in Denver. And so that's that. And then you have another one where it's retirement, you know what I mean? So that's just that part. And then I do think offensively for us heading into this second year together, man, I can't even begin to tell you how much easier it is going into watching the film right now in the morning together and just everybody knowing it and not having to reteach things, So now for Sean, it's been very important. And I love this. It's been very important that really all of us are in the building together. all by the rules and all by the protocol. But being there, as much as we love doing these Zoom interviews and these Zoom talks, they're good, but it's just different when you're in the building. It's different when you're together. And that's kind of the direction that we're going right now. And I think for Sean now, getting back to what he wants and some of these, because that is, a lot of new guys on that side, they're able to kind of really feel who each other is, their personalities, have ideas, and not have to click the mute button every time they want to talk. So that part's been good. And then offensively, I feel like we're a step ahead, just because we have Bill Lazor, and now Flip has had the quarterbacks, and our other coaches, they're heading into their 4th year. So I really feel good with where we're at. Now we got to put it all together, and we just got to see where the off season goes.